What's happening, everybody? On today's show, and then there were none. No SEC teams made it to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. We'll run through what happened with top-seeded Alabama as the conference went down in flames in the Sweet 16. Also, spring football updates from Kentucky and Florida, some SEC recruiting news, and a look back at the SEC baseball weekend. Locked on SEC starts right now.
Are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along, and thank you for making us your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Let's jump into it. Plenty to discuss. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Intercepted. Takes the handoff. Throws. What a catch.
Around the conference.
And then there were none after Tennessee and Arkansas were eliminated Thursday night in the Sweet 16. Top-seeded Alabama goes down on Friday night to San Diego State, leaving no SEC teams in the Elite Eight or the Final Four. San Diego State stifled Alabama's very high-octane offense, held the Tide to just 3 for 27 shooting from three-point range, and Brandon Miller was held to 1 for 10 from three-point land. Another upset loss, and Nate Oates was asked after the game if the tournament issues related to the system they run or game preparation, in-game management issues. What was it? Oates said, look, it's all good teams in the NCAA tournament when you get here. He highlighted, any loss for Alabama at this point was going to be labeled an upset. The Tide carried the pressure of being the number one overall seed. He said, we were going to lose to a team seated lower than us unless we won the national championship. We were the number one overall seed. And this year, we were 3 of 27 from 3 in this game. I know we take a lot of threes, but the system worked for the entire year. It's just one of those deals where we're going to go back to the drawing board, see what we can get better at, try to recruit really good players. And Oates said that the future looks very bright for Alabama. Said a lot of programs would like to be in the NCAA tournament 3 straight years. A lot of them would have loved to have won the SEC regular season tournament twice in the last 3 years. They're doing good things at Bama, and we're going to continue to get better. Brandon Miller, star player in the conference this year, was not good in the NCAA tournament. We know he was banged up to start the tournament and was limited in that game 1, but overall in the tournament, 3 games played, 28 total points, 8 for 41 shooting, and just 3 of 19 from 3. It was not a good tournament at all for Brandon Miller. And now some critics kind of saying, hey, this is the guy that's supposed to be top 3 draft pick in this year's draft. Look, the talent is all still there, and he's still going to go very high, but just one of those things that teams will look at and say, well, when the lights were brightest here on the big stage, he did not perform the greatest. Again, could have been residual of the injury. I know he said a week ago, I'm 100%, all that kind of stuff, but we'll see. But disappointing for Alabama, disappointing for my picks and my bracket, had them winning it all. Just thought they were the best team we saw all year, and they played a stinky one against San Diego State, and thus this becomes the first tournament, NCAA tournament in history without a 1 seed in the final 8 teams. And now, Final Four that is set with FAU, San Diego State, UConn, and Miami in this tournament. There were a lot of upsets, so probably Nate Oates not going to hear a lot of noise from, critics in Tuscaloosa. There's a thought about pressure at the basketball schools and hoops coaches at the so-called football schools. It kind of feels like we'll face less scrutiny. I put Nate Oates in that category at Alabama, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, even Rick Barnes at Tennessee. Football schools first. So maybe people don't overreact to, say, a non-conference loss in December like they would at a basketball school. Now, Kentucky, on the other hand, those fans will overreact. They're a basketball school first. Calipari underachieving again. Those fans are going to get on him. But I think there's a benefit to, like I said, a Nate Oates at Alabama or a Bruce Pearl at Auburn. Fans are uber focused on football year round there, that when the basketball team kind of underachieves, a lot more fans are willing to, let's turn the page. We'll get them next year. We'll have a fun run next year, as opposed to, over scrutinizing, going, why didn't we get it done this year? But it's a little upsetting if you're an SEC team when you see programs like FAU and San Diego State making the Final Four from the left side of the bracket, which, by the way, the left side of the bracket included Bama, Mizzou, Tennessee, Kentucky. In my opinion, all those programs should feel like they should be in ahead of the likes of a Conference USA team and a Mountain West team. And while we close the books on the SEC men's basketball season for the year, currently Kentucky is the only SEC team ranked in the top 10 of basketball recruiting classes for next season. Wildcats have the number 1 overall ranked class for next year. Again, still a lot of recruits to be had out there, so classes are by no means complete. But Alabama, they have the 14th ranked class right now. Tennessee, 17th. Missouri, number 22. And Arkansas, number 27. So kind of a lot of the same players there. Those are all teams that made the tournament this year. What do you know? They're all getting highly touted recruits, and they're not done yet. I got a feeling some of those teams are going to be moving up the rankings here in the coming weeks to months as they set their recruiting class for next year. All right, how about some SEC spring football news? We head over to Lexington as Kentucky coach Mark Stoops was not happy with his team following Saturday's football practice, rounding out the second full week of spring ball. Stoops was a little perturbed speaking with reporters. He said, quote, "I'm a little frustrated, a little disappointed, a little pissed, to be totally honest with you. Been a lackluster past couple of days. The guys we got right now, I don't know if they think they're just going to roll out of bed and be good or whatever. It's not the same. We've got no leaders right now, no excuse, whatever it is." Asked what he thinks the issue was, Stoops said, "Look, we need to get back and play the way our brand was made. And that was by being tough and being physical, playing physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage, run the football. I'm grateful for what we have. I just feel like we got a bunch of guys that are entitled and don't work extremely hard. I think it's going to happen, or waiting for the next guy to make it happen, and I'm not real pleased." So see if Stoops motivates his guys with that little pep talk. By the way, Kentucky, they opened the season September 2nd against Ball State, and as we've talked about, they're one of the lone SEC schools that will not have a spring game due to improvements being made at Kroger Field. Over at Florida, former Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz was among the biggest transfers heading to Florida this offseason. Mertz talked with reporters this week about his decision to join the Gators and had high praise for the Florida program and Billy Napier. He said, "I love the direction that Coach Napier is taking this. Really, just from the start, fell in love with this place. I knew this is the place I wanted to be, and I'm just refreshed. I wake up every day with just joy to have a fresh start. Makes me live in the moment and just do my job every day." It's clear Billy Napier has high expectations for Graham Mertz. He gave him Tim Tebow's number 15. Mertz said he took it as a compliment. He finished last season with a 57% completion rate, passing for 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Kind of ironic, Anthony Richardson completed 58% of his passes last year, but we'll see if won't be necessarily an upgrade, but can Graham Mertz do some things to provide stability at that quarterback spot for the Gators? We'll see. Also in injury news for the Gators, tight end Keon Zipperer has apparently suffered a knee injury, and the fifth-year senior expects to miss possibly the entire season. He sustained the injury on Thursday. Florida was waiting on the test results to determine the exact timetable, but it is believed, according to some reports, that he tore his ACL. And based on comments he made on social media, sounds like he will miss the entire 2023 season. He posted on Facebook, 2024 shake back year. So the 6'2", 250-pound tight end Keon Zipperer will probably not see him this year for the Florida Gators. So that's a tough blow here in March for next season for the Gators. And one LSU note, LSU going to be down a defensive assistant as they are in the midst of their spring ball. Defensive line coach Jamar Cain reportedly heading up to the Denver Broncos. He'll make the jump over to the NFL. Joined LSU staff last offseason, was part of their SEC West division title, and coached up some good guys last year on that D-line like Mekhi Wingo and B.J. Ojulari, Ali Gay, but Jamar Cain in and out one and done at LSU, and he'll be heading up there to help out former Saints coach Sean Payton, who, by the way, they just signed former Tennessee wide receiver Marcus Callaway, who was with the Saints. He's now heading up to the Denver Broncos. So LSU will be looking to replace their D-line coach. And one more football nugget here. Eli Drinkwitz. Obviously, he's got a quarterback situation on his hands, trying to figure out who is going to be his guy. And he was on with Greg McElroy and Cole Kublik a couple of days ago on Jocks FM Birmingham. And he talked about the stiff competition with his quarterbacks throughout the spring. He said, look, the only thing better than a little competition is a lot of competition. We knew that Brady Cook had done a really solid job for us last year, but obviously he was out this spring. He said, we have to play better in a lot of different places. We're not satisfied being a 500 football team. We've got to improve, and everybody has to raise their level of play. He said Brady Cook missed the spring with an injury, so Jake Garcia was able to get accustomed, show some things, and then Sam Horn missed much of the spring with that baseball injury. But with a couple of months left, it looks like Brady Cook is still in the driver's seat to be Mizzou's starter. He passed for 14 touchdowns, 7 picks, and 2,700 yards in 13 games last season. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll give you some recruiting tidbits from around the SEC. That's coming your way in just a sec. But first, this episode is presented to you by friends over at Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is live. We know you have a favorite Built Bar or Puff, and now is your time to go make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorite bar. You know, here we like to vote for the cookies and cream, but whatever you like, you can head over there and vote for your favorite bar and support your team, support your bar or Puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or Puff, you'll be entered into a drawing. 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bars. Not only that, one Locked On fan is going to win a 12-month subscription to Built Bar to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered straight to your door all throughout the year. You got to go try Built Bar. Built, they are the best protein bar out there. They are amazing. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. They're good for you. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now. Vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day throughout the month of March. So hop in and support your pick. All right, let's dive back into it. Locked On SEC. Obviously, we hit on some, wrapped up the men's college basketball side of things. We discussed some spring football topics. And now we get into some recruiting news, as it is that time of year where a lot of kids, you know, looking ahead to next year, coming out of their junior year or whatever, and trying to start to look at making some decisions. Some decisions were made over the last handful of days. So let's jump in over at Georgia. Malachi Tolliver staying put in Georgia. The offensive tackle committed to play for Kirby Smart's program. Announced the news on social media. He's Georgia's first offensive line commit for the 2024 class. 6'3", 300 pounds. 24/7 Sports ranks him as a 3-star, the number 73 offensive tackle, number 81 recruit in the state of Georgia. It offers from all over the SEC, including Auburn, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee. His visits included the likes of South Carolina, Auburn, and Georgia. But Tolliver gives Georgia now 11 commitments for next year's class, currently ranked as number 1 in the composite rankings. Now, some good news for Georgia, too. Quarterback Dylan Raiola is going to take an official visit to Georgia later this summer. That's according to 24/7 Sports. Shared that news on Friday. Raiola's visit to Athens set for the first weekend of June. He's a 5-star prospect and number 1 overall player in the class of 2024. He had previously committed to Ohio State, but backed off that commitment in December. He's got offers from everybody in the country, basically. 6'3", 220 pounds. And we will see if Dylan Raiola ends up at Georgia, go join the back-to-back national champs. He won't be making a decision anytime soon, though. I think he's going to take his time and draw that one out. Another recruiting news over to Ole Miss, their football program, Lane Kiffin picking up a commitment over the weekend in 4-star defensive lineman Jeffrey Rush Jr. He is a Mississippi native, number 9 defensive lineman in the nation, number 61 overall prospect in the country. and the number 3 overall prospect from the state of Mississippi. Big time pickup for Lane Kiffin as he took to social media, tweeted out a GIF of somebody reeling in a real big fish. And Lane Kiffin doing a good job, obviously, in the transfer portal, but already building up this class for 2024. So Jeffrey Rush, big defensive lineman, heading to Ole Miss. And Hugh Freeze picking up a commitment as well. This one happened on Friday. Running back Jamarian Burnett from the state of Alabama, staying home and going to the Plains. 6'1", 225 pounds, rated 4-star. Number 8 recruit in the state of Alabama, number 10 running back in the country, and he will stay there in Alabama. In November, he had offers from tons of schools, including Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, and Auburn now has 4 commitments for their 2024 class. This will be the first full cycle of Hugh Freeze putting all his recruits together, and so big pickup there for Auburn. Congrats to Hugh Freeze picking up Jamarian Burnett. Over at Tennessee, Josh Heupel, maybe some good news coming his way. They're in the hunt for one of the best players in the country, Jaden Davis, 5-star quarterback from the North Carolina area. He announced his top 5 schools over the weekend. Tennessee, the only SEC school to make the list, joining the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, North Carolina, and Clemson. He will make his college decision on ESPN SportsCenter coming up on March 31st. So that is coming up this Friday. So Jaden Davis, number 1 prospect from the state of North Carolina, number 2 quarterback in the country behind Dylan Raiola, was the Gatorade Player of the Year, led his team to a state championship. So we'll see. Just picked up Nico Iamaleava, and now a chance to pick up Jaden Davis in next year's class. We'll see if the Vols can lock that down. And one more nugget here. Stetson Bennett, obviously great success in college these last 2 years, leading Georgia to back-to-back national championship titles, but starting to generate a lot of buzz among draft prospects now, or at least with teams showing interest. We know that all the big dogs with Bryce Young and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are all expected to go top 10 in this draft, but Stetson Bennett not going to be a first or even second rounder, but a mid to late round pick is kind of where a lot of people had him projected. But he had a good showing at the Combine, and then he had a good showing last week at Georgia's Pro Day. And according to Tom Pelissero, he said that he's taken advantage and set up private meetings or workouts with 10 different NFL teams, and he is now projected anywhere from a 4th to 6th round pick, Stetson Bennett. So, look, he had the offseason arrest for, knocking on somebody's door drunk in the middle of the night and all this kind of stuff. Looks like Stetson Bennett getting things back on track, and chance to go on day 3 of the draft and end up in a good spot. We'll see what he can do at the next level. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we got some more nuggets. We'll review the SEC baseball weekend that was. All that coming your way in just a second. But first, this episode is presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Look, the tournament, it has been heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. They are America's #1 sports book. It's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. You can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the nets, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your shot at that no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Going along here, Locked On SEC. I want to get to some SEC baseball nuggets from over the weekend. I don't know how diehard of SEC baseball fans you guys are, but I keep up with it, and there's a lot of good talent and good SEC teams in the conference this year, as we typically are. But before we get to that, I wanted to bring up a little nugget that the Big 12, when we talk about expansion, we know the SEC is expanding, and we know that Texas and Oklahoma are coming very, very soon. But there's a report over the weekend that the Big 12 is looking at, continue to build maybe into a super conference. And a report over the weekend that Fresno State is garnering interest from new Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark to join the conference. The school president confirmed the report, said that the Big 12 has been looking at a strong West Coast brand to their ranks. Fresno State has been linked to the Pac-12 and Big 12 over the past year, and it was announced USC and UCLA are going to head to the Big 10 next year in 2024. The Big 12 will feature at least 12 teams for the first time since 2011. They're going to have BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF coming in this summer. I just wonder, look, if you're going to go out to the West Coast and add Big 12, Fresno State, that's the best you can do? It just seems silly. And this whole thing about, we want to add California, we want to add the California footprint here. Yeah, no one's tuning in to watch Fresno State games. And no disrespect, I know they've had a lot of 10-win seasons in recent years. And, when you talk about those group of 5 teams, I guess I don't even know what you would classify them in. I mean, they're one of those teams that's had a nice run, but man, is that like the Big 12? Is that really adding cachet? Is that really adding, we added the state of California? No, you didn't. You're going to spend more money in traveling out to California, all your teams to go out there to go play Fresno State, than any kind of eyeballs you're getting in TVs, ad dollars or whatever. Some people say it doesn't matter about the team. You just add a team in that state and they consider, we're getting California revenue now. I really question that. What kind of revenue are you really getting from adding Fresno State? And then the money you're going to spend on expenses to go out there, to go play in football and soccer and baseball and basketball. And a lot of these non-revenue generating sports after football is a waste of money and a waste of resources. Why not go try to add somebody good? Why not go try to add Oregon or, Washington, somebody that could help upgrade the level of the Big 12. Fresno State doesn't do that. But you know what? We're the SEC. We're fine. With the additions of Texas and Oklahoma, we don't have to expand anymore. SEC will be just fine. All right, let's get to some SEC baseball news before we roll out of here. Tennessee baseball, they bounced back from a rough start to SEC play against Mizzou with a 3-game sweep of Texas A&M. The Vols earned the series win Saturday in a comeback victory, topped off with a walk-off sac fly. And then Tennessee down the Aggies 9-6 behind a red-hot bat from Zane Denton. And he hit the 9 spot on Sunday, drove in a pair of runs. The Vols used 8 total arms against the Aggies, with Drew Beam getting the longest stint to start off. He's pitched 4 1/3 innings. Tennessee now 3-3 at SEC play with a rough schedule. They will be traveling to Baton Rouge this weekend to face LSU. But the Vols do sweep the Aggies. LSU, they lost to Arkansas in extra innings in their game 1 on Friday, but then bounced back to win the doubleheader on Saturday, outscoring Arkansas 26-7 to pick up their first series win over Arkansas since 2018. LSU used a 6-run 4th inning to break a 4-4 tie, and they got the win. Tommy White had the highlight of the day with a grand slam. It was his 2nd home run of the game. And the guy we really got to talk about for LSU, Dylan Cruz. He had a 2-run homer on the day, extended his hitting streak to 22 games, and his home run streak to 4 straight games. He has also reached base in all 24 games this season. He's hitting .538 and .571 in SEC play. He's reached base on nearly 70% of his plate appearances. If you want to start talking SEC Player of the Year, Dylan Cruz is the guy to put in that driver's seat right now. LSU takes 2 out of 3 against Arkansas. And over at Vanderbilt, Parker Nolan, he was on another level on Friday night as he had a grand slam in the 6th inning and then went yard again with an opposite field blast for his 2nd grand slam of the game. His full stat line on Friday night was 5 for 6 with 3 runs scored and 11 RBIs. He did strike out once, but man, what a ridiculous night for Parker Nolan. So here's how the weekend shaped up. Vandy swept Mississippi State in Starkville. South Carolina swept Missouri. Florida swept Ole Miss and Oxford. Auburn beat Georgia 2 out of 3. Bulldogs won the finale 24-7 to avoid a sweep. And then Kentucky took 2 out of 3 against Bama. Bama avoided the sweep with a 4-3 win on Sunday. So we take a look at the standings and some strong starts out in the East. South Carolina and Vanderbilt, both 6-0 to start SEC play. So they are looking good. Kentucky and Florida right behind them at 5-1. Tennessee, the team that a lot of people expected to maybe run away and win the SEC East this year, they're 3-3, along with Missouri and Georgia coming up at the bottom at 1-5. In the SEC West, a little bit closer, more competitive on this side. LSU and Arkansas both sitting at the top at 4-2. LSU with the edge because they just beat Arkansas 2 out of 3. And then behind them, it's Bama and Auburn both at 2-4. Texas A&M 1-5 to start. And how about this? This is probably the shocker of SEC play so far. Ole Miss and Mississippi State both 0-6 in SEC play. Those are the last two national champs. Ole Miss just won it last year, and Mississippi State the year prior. Not good starts for either squad there for Coach Bianco or Coach Lamonis. So Mississippi, Magnolia State, what are you doing? Got to turn around your fortunes there. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Rough starts to the SEC baseball season. And there you have it. This is the latest going on around the conference. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Make sure you go check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college hoops all in one place. Hear from some big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.